Say we were gonna do the Matnas Chelko on this, right? Is that right,
Yeah.
Brian?
Yeah.
On 27? No,
No,
26.
26.
On 26.
You were in the
Oh,
middle.
we had started it?
Yes.
Yeah, I see. I have a thing over here. Okay, so again, what was 26? 26 was as the Matzah, right? The Matnas Chelka in Yishafu Shlema, as he and as he had quoted the first halach in Shulchan Aruch, right? That basically Shavisi Hashem like Disavad, a person acts differently when he's alone in his house than when he's in front of a king, and that was the cheshbon hanefesh a person has to make. How is it that it seems that us regular people were more fearful and more careful not to transgress the rules, whether the rules of a king or the rules of even the law, right? When you're speeding, that was the example he gave, and you see a policeman, you slow down, and Yaakov Baruch Hu's Moli Kavoida is Kol Oilam, and go away, and yet we do wrong in front of him, right? We don't do what we're supposed to do. That's a cheshbon nefesh. Cheshbon nefesh. Okay, so on page Kuf Yud Ches. This example that he gave about the speeding. He says that hits the bullseye for our topic. Because in fact, the what do you call it? The speeding laws, the traffic laws, they're clearly made for our benefit, right? They're there to protect people. It shouldn't be accidents, etc. It's also good for the others who are driving. And the Avera itself is the punishment. He says, for example, if you would drive against traffic, Shame Noisim Droima, they're going south. Who nice it's fine. A curva, don't worry. They say Yahariku or Yaragacher. You go drive against traffic, either you're going to be killed or they're going to be killed. All Kapanim shooting is Aikim. There's going to be damage. You could cause a tremendous korban. So when there's rules and you drive here this way, you drive there that way, it's totally for our benefit. And going against these laws are the punishment. There's also no benefit in that Avera. I mean, even though we feel, I don't know.
All right,
save another minute, drive quicker. I know that it's a for me. It was so I haven't driven for a long time, but in good old days, tremendous challenge to drive just when you're on the highways and that they're open. Not to break the speeding limit. The speeding limit. It's a very big challenge. Maybe it comes from Gaipa. You're in control. You have this machine, and the olden days, I guess, if you rode a horse, yeah, it gives you a certain. I don't know, but I know that there are times when I said I'm not driving more than the speeding limit, and it was very difficult, very very difficult to rein myself into that. You have all the other cars zooming by you, and you're this goody goody in the right lane, 60 miles an hour. Okay, what's that?
There was actually an incident in Ontario many years ago where these two individuals were contesting the fact that the speed limit was only 100 kilometers an hour or whatever, and they went side by side. It was very interesting. They went side by side on a two-lane highway going exactly the limit, and everyone behind them was forced to go inevitably slower because otherwise you couldn't maintain it. And they actually were taken to court, and they lost their licenses because they were holding up traffic. So it wasn't as pasha.
Well,
that's
go
what
figure
the
that
speed limit says. That's what the speed limit says. Like, oh, hang on. There's also we also have variants within Torah that certain individuals kind of took the reins in their own space, broke something that was actually halacha, but was for a higher purpose, and they were considered to be tzaddikim for said thing. So it's not always so pasha.
Well, I don't know if being more machmer in halacha is the same thing as speeding, that you're being more machmer of the speed limit. I don't know if that's a parallel.
Well, no, there's the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Like these two guys who were driving, they did the letter of the law and they were punished for it. But it's like, what's the intent?
No, I understand that, which is very strange. I would like to hear the judge's rationale there.
He was the guy that was stuck behind the guy.
That's it. Very good, very good. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Shaver gufa mazekes v'tzarich la'arich cheshbon zeh she'ein shum teil she'etzas adei she'avar mitzvahs habaris, says a person has to make them using this as the springboard. A person has to make a cheshbon that when you're over on Avera, going against Hashem's mitzvahs, you don't have really a benefit from it. How could you not, in your intellect, give thought? What's the difference between the speeding laws and the mitzvahs Hashem? Oh, so this is back to, these are the words of Chovos haLevavos, right? You have to give thought and realize that the king, the policeman, he's very limited in, so he catches you once in a while. You could fight the ticket, you could go to Ontario and say, because the policeman, he's just human. You could sweet talk him out, you could slip him some money, and sometimes the punishment is delayed. Sometimes you'll go with the prosecutor. You go, you have a quiet discussion in front of the judge, and you could do some type of deal. You convince the court that you're really right. So, and yet, like we said, you do slow down when you see the police car standing there on the right lane or the left lane on the side. All right, so he's quoting the pasuk that Shlomo Melech said in Mishlei, that he's telling us you should fear Hashem just like you fear the king. I guess that takes you to that Gemara in Brachos that everybody knows about Rabbi Yechim Tzaki was on the deathbed and the Talmid asked him for a bracha. He said, that you should fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu like you fear Basar V'Dam. And when they said, that's it, he said, haLevavos. haLevavos, you should fear Hashem as much as you fear the Melech Basar V'Dam. And this is exactly, what he's saying here. This is an application of that. We should fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu as much as we fear the policemen parked on the sides of the Palisades. And you see you suddenly all slow down. The police is looking. You might get a ticket. Okay, so we continue on page Kuf. So if that's true, if that's how you relate to the laws of the land, how can you not be embarrassed? Someone who's a maskil, obviously someone who's not a thinking person, there's no one home to talk to, and you're not talking to him. Right? But someone who is a maskil, how can you not be embarrassed from his Kodesh Baruch Hu, that those laws are eternal, and it's not just that once in a while there's a policeman on the side of the highway. Kodesh Baruch Hu is always watching. Kodesh Baruch Hu won't ever be too busy to take care of your case. Nothing could stop him, nothing could stop him from doing what he wants to do. How you're not afraid of the punishment beyond when you go against his command. And you know Hashem's looking, but right? And you go over an historian, Hashem knows exactly what's going on with you. And not only that, you don't do tshuva for what you've done in the past. Zoe Hatviyah. He says that's what the prosecutor. That's the prosecution. That's what's being teveya from us. How can it be that you don't do tshuva and you're past? Even though you know everything we said here, there's HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and his laws are eternal, and he knows, and he sees, and he does. And how can you just say, okay, so, if you don't pay your ticket, you get to, and I think Shai Tshuva writes that besides, everything about not doing tshuva, that in itself is in our favor. And you helped for that you didn't do tshuva. You had the opportunity to do, and you do tshuva, and you didn't do tshuva. That in itself is another aver and compounds whatever aver you did. So how could you not do tshuva?
This sounds like coming from the Yira perspective, not the Ava perspective. Like, it's like a lower level of awareness.
No, listen. We need all levels. Someone who only serves Hashem out of Ava is a hippie. He's a flower child.
Can't hear you. Is that me or you?
I believe he's lost connection.
Houston, you have a problem.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know exactly, but we were here. Zoe Atfia on page Kufiyates. How's it possible? How's it possible that we don't do tshuva on the past? Even though you know this whole cheshbon on nefesh, you know it. You know that Hashem sees everything. There's nothing distracting him. Case. And you're going to get punished if you don't do tshuva. That's a guarantee. There's no now over here on the bottom he says, as we've explained in some of the other cheshbonis, that besides, I guess, doing this cheshbon and efforts, on a regular basis, when things happen to you, when different things happen to you, it should awaken you to do the cheshbon. When you're in a situation where a king, the first was about a king, and we could talk about the courts, made a law, made a decree, and you're being affected by it, that should be the time when you make the cheshbon hanefesh. I think I mentioned yesterday that I remember, driving up to the Catskills, Route 17, suddenly all the traffic stops because there's a policeman on the side there, slows down. At that point, you should start saying, whoa, look how I'm reacting to the police car. What about reacting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and to his mitzvahs? He's looking also, he's parked on the left side, That's when it should be, you should do it. The person's traveling, driving, this is what I just said. And suddenly you see everybody's becoming a really sweet boy, driving so perfectly, no speeding. And you say, whoa, what just happened? They were doing 80. They're doing easy 80. Suddenly they're doing 55. But then suddenly you see those lights flashing on top of the police car. And suddenly you realize that everyone's being careful to keep the laws, the traffic laws, at a fear of the ticket. All of Lahavin. So at that point, you should understand. Take it as a lesson. You're seeing it for a purpose. Learn. Lekach b'cheshbon zeh shachar haLevavos, and make this cheshbon that we're learning now. Wow. What about Kosh Baruch Hu's also looking? The lights are flashing. Okay, we don't see the lights flashing, but he's looking. Kosh Baruch Hu is giving me a message. He's showing me in real life. He's showing me the concept Shvis Hashem Negdi Summit by showing me that police car. Everyone's so scared. They suddenly all slow down from the police. Even though it's a suffix, it's if you get tickets, maybe he won't notice you. And maybe he'll be on the phone talking to his wife. And now the incos, and yet you suddenly become a good boy and you drive the way you're supposed to. How much we have to be afraid and feared, as Ron pointed out with Terma Yira here, from HaKadosh Baruch Hu.
Sorry, but how realistic is this? Meaning, if someone can be completely neurotic, I'm being watched. Like, you can't. How can you ever interact with another human being when Hashem's watching you? It's like, it's not that you should move to sin, but it's like,
I agree with you. And if someone finds himself neurotic, then he should see a psychologist.
Well, no, but this concept is promoting neuroticism.
No, a healthy person doesn't feel neurotic. A healthy person who's well, he's a healthy person.
A healthy person doesn't think they're being watched every second, including
No. But being watched every second. We had the greatest gedolim, right? And they were very normal. They weren't neurotic. But yes, they were very aware of Shvis Hashem Summit, and they were very fearful of sinning. But you didn't find them as imbalanced people. You found them as very good people. It's a pleasure to speak to them. They could even sometimes, say a joke. And yet, at the same point, they were very fine-tuned, heavy of their actions, because they felt, yes, they're living in front of Kosh Baruch Hu. So you're right. If someone finds this very difficult, he finds he's neurotic, he shouldn't do it. He should stop.
Well, let's throw it like this. It's like, imagine like the king is there with you. Okay, so if there's a king in the room, how would you ever eat? How would you ever speak to another person? How would you ever do anything else? Because there's a king in the room.
You have 20.
It's that I think by virtue of that, it detracts away from that. Meaning, we can't live in a. You can't. There's an idea like you can't work when someone's looking over your shoulder constantly. You can't function. The king's here. Oh, well, I have to always do X, Y, Z. I have to, that's. There's something to be aware of, not to sin.
I hear what you're saying.
The analogy is not good.
But first of all, let me just throw it back to you. So how do you deal with this Shivisi Hashem Negdi Summit? The first line in Torah, it says Summit. How do you deal with that? That's number one.
I need to be a better explanation of this. It's like, okay, don't sin.
So
okay.
Number two, Ron. Number two, I'm reading this book called The Mashkiach about Rabbi Yerucham. He was the famous Mashkiach in the Mir. He was one of the Gedolim in Europe, and he, in his shmuzes, always seems emphasize that in your growth in your Shemayim, it has to be step by step. So therefore, on one hand, yes, everything we're learning, and we have to know it because it's real. It's very, very real. On the other hand, we have to work our way up to it. And if we work our way up to it, we'll be comfortable with it. If you go from zero to start walking around, oh no, Kosh Baruch Hu's looking, Kosh Baruch looking, you're right, you're going to be neurotic and you're going to jump off a building. So you have to work on it. You have to be, it's a real reality. And get the messages Hashem sends you along the road of your life. And each time, take another baby step towards that. become a little more aware of the fact that I'm more aware that I have to be careful with my mitzvahs. And a person who continues growing that way will become a gadol and won't be neurotic. Absolutely. You're right. You're right. Let's just finish this. It's getting late here. Right? With just a few more lines here up on top over here. Okay, doing the tshuva and the last few lines on kufya test there on the bottom. He quotes the pasuk, why isn't the Russia turning to Hashem? That's what the pasuk said. Until in Russia could go over Baal Yidrash, because Hashem's not in his thoughts. He blocks Hashem out. He's not thinking about Hashem. He doesn't live with the fact that Hashem is watching. So to summarize, because of the Russia's haughtiness, so the Russia is lacking. If he's gaiva, he's thinking about himself. He's focused on himself. He's lacking this foundation, this Yisod Shel Shavisi Hashem Negdi, somebody that know there's a God watching me, and therefore he's able to do what he wants. Okay, so like I'm saying, Ron, yes, we have to know this, we have to know it in our minds, and we have to grow from it. And maybe that's what Rav Matzio was referring to, that Hashem sent us messages. Like he said, you're driving, you see police go, okay, give it some thought at that point. Here's a woman. How am I living? How's my relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu? How am I leading my life? Am I really attuned? Last night I went to this funeral over here down my block, Rebbetzin Weinberg, Reb Noach Weinberg's wife. And one of the things they said about her, that she was totally focused on Kadosh Baruch Hu. Everything was, what's the Ritzayin Hashem now? What's the Ritzayin Hashem? And what does Hashem want me? You got to grow into that. She wasn't born that way. And you don't have to be neurotic. You have to grow into it step by step. And Hashem sends you along your trip, everyone's journey, as they say, from birth to death, sends messages that we have to have our eyes open to. And after learning this helps us, gives us a key to have our eyes open to see, how we our relation with Kodesh Baruch Hu, to take stock. Okay, Mr. Sam, tomorrow. What's today? Monday, Tuesday, yeah. Number 27. Okay?